It's a very special day for us, for Khyentse Vision Project and for Siddhartha's intent, and for many, many practitioners of the Khyentse lineage. It's our special day each year where we are able to have the opportunity to really celebrate Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo. Of course, every day for Khyentse Vision Project is a day that we celebrate Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, but today is a special day because it's his anniversary. So I'm not going to say much at all about Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo because I'm going to leave that to our wonderful Jakob, who will be joining me to do this session, to host this session. I just wanted to say a few words about Jakob before we start and also about the project, just in case there's anybody here who doesn't know what the Khyentse Vision Project is and who doesn't know who Jakob is, which is perhaps unlikely, but just in case. Um, so Khyentse Vision Project is now 4 years old, or even more, 5 years old, actually, from the very start of it. And initially, we were a very small idea planted about 30 years ago in my brain by Khyentse Rimé, when he first gave the first Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo empowerment in Australia back in the early 90s to a very small group of people at Vajradhara. And we were very fortunate then to make a connection with Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo very early on. And I remember at that time, deep in my heart, I had this thought, oh, wouldn't it be wonderful if all of Khyentse Wangpo's incredible writings and termas could be translated? And a little seed of aspiration was born, and it's taken more than 30 years later for this seed to come into fruition. And now we have this wonderful project, which is under the umbrella of Khyentse Foundation. And we've grown from nothing a couple of years ago to now a very busy project where we are trying to translate two different collections of Khyentse Wangpo, his Tauma collection, which is the Kababdon, and then his collected works, which includes other writings other than his Tauma writings, which is the Kabum. And altogether, there's an enormous number of pages, but there's about like almost 30,000 pages altogether of text of these precious termas and precious. The amazing thing about Khyentse Wangpo is his terma tradition in particular, and the termas he discovered are really, there's a lot of people practicing them nowadays. And Dzongtse Khyentse Rinpoche in particular gives a lot of empowerments for these precious cycles. So it's very exciting for us as a project to be able to be contributing to bringing these incredibly precious termas to people who really appreciate them and who want to practice them so that they can become really living paths to liberation, not just texts on a dusty bookshelf. So at the heart of our project is this desire to really support Khyentse Wangpo's intention to bring all beings to liberation, and particularly on this precious, unbelievably precious path of Vajrayana, where it is possible in a lifetime to use these incredible techniques and these paths that great masters like Khyentse Wangpo have given us to achieve enlightenment in this lifetime. So our aim is to finish these collections within the next, now it's 7 years. And we're doing well. We're hitting our goals each year in terms of our publication output, but there's still a long way to go. And we have a team of wonderfully talented translators and editors. And Jakob is one of our very kind contributing translators and a project consultant. So he very kindly agreed to help us. And his advice has been very precious for the project, and particularly for me too. I've worked with Jakob quite a lot in various different ways, and his advice and help with this project and support in general has been immensely precious for me personally and for the project. So Jakob has been a practitioner since maybe even, well, since the early 70s. So I was going to say since before I was born, but I'm not going to give away how old I am. So for a long time, Jakob has been a practitioner. And I know that he was a student of a incredibly great Khyentse, Dolma Gunther, who is one of the emanations of Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo. And then, of course, he's also a student of the other Khyentse emanations, Khyentse Rinpoche and Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo. So we all have this very strong connection to the Khyentse lineage, and Jakob has had the great fortune of having more than one generation of Khyentses look after him and teach him and guide him and fill him with blessings. So without further ado, Jakob, I'm going to hand over to you to talk about the wonderful Khyentse lineage and the wonderful Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo. Thank you so much for leading this session, and thanks so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much, Dolma. And sometimes one has to really meditate on selflessness when one hears some of these things, and at the same time also wondering who are we actually talking about. But anyway, the focus today is Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, and I'm just going to set things up a little bit here. So let's see. I hope you can all see a screen here with a beautiful valley and an image of Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo. And we shall well, actually the program, what I'd like to do here today, together with all of us, is first have a section where we go through Khyentse Wangpo's life. And there are actually quite a few narratives about Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo. I think in the previous years we've been drawing on Tugu Tundrup's life story of Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo from Masters of Miracles and Meditation. This year I wanted to actually go over partly from one of the great contributors to the Khyentse Vision Project. And this is somebody whose service to the Khyentse lineage presently actually is really remarkable. And it's somebody called Matthew Ackister. And Matthew, he translated Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo's life in its entirety, the life that was written by Jamyang Khyentse. And he also translated a text called Guide to Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo's Guide to Central Tibet, the holy places of Central Tibet. But not only that, Matthew went to every of these places and documented what they're like now, and finally actually published this gigantic volume, which has Khyentse Wangpo's root text as such, but also photographs and documentation about these locations as they exist nowadays, or at least when he was there, which of course as time passes is already a substantial amount of years ago. But anyway, Matthew's wrote a beautiful introduction to this where he describes Khyentse Wangpo's life. And then also I'd like to go a little bit through Alex Gardner's from Treasury of Lives, his account of Khyentse Wangpo, and including in there an anecdote from Ujin Topgyal Rinpoche, and then finally also a little bit from Dujum Rinpoche in regards to the treasure teachings of Khyentse Wangpo. And then we'll have a break, and then we'll practice the Guru Yoga. Essentially, we'll do practice together. So I hope that's okay with everyone. And like Dolma said, this is a wonderful day that we're gathering together and commemorating Khyentse Wangpo. So I'll do my best to do justice to the subject matter. So what I'm going to do, and what I normally do with these for these occasions, is actually just read. And let me just see here. And yeah, just read a bit, and actually I'll share the text with you. So let's see here. And simply just read that. Now, one thing that's really, I think, always really important for us when we come across a work like Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo is really it's important that we don't objectify Khyentse Wangpo in terms of how we ordinarily understand, you could say, phenomena. Khyentse Wangpo doesn't fit into how we understand the world. And in general, you could say the Buddhist teaching, as much as we highlight the value of the teacher, we should always appreciate that the teacher is never there to be adored as some sort of idol, and the entire purpose of the teacher's life story is entirely just to show us the path of liberation. And that's why I felt compelled to bring in a few quotes that really highlight that as much as we rejoice in the unfolding of the Buddha activity that is Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo and other masters, we should never keep them as something that we just gawk at, sort of like voyeuristic, just like wow. What really is impressive about their lives, or rather what strikes us about their lives, their incredible activity, is not something where we should think, oh, that's belongs to a different culture. Or also what we have in academia nowadays is something called Tibet Dream World, or the fantasies of Tibet, like Tintin in Tibet and Lobsang Rampa and so on, where Tibet is just sort of almost a joke with all the fantastic things that went on there. And what we really want to appreciate with the life of Khyentse Wangpo is really an understanding of how the enlightened activity unfolds. And ultimately also understand that Khyentse Wangpo would never have wanted us to just stand there and look at him, but rather actually follow in his footsteps. And of course, that's key in everything that we're doing in the Buddhist path. So that's where we complement you could say, the narrative of Khyentse Wangpo then with the practice of his Guru Yoga. And you could say, approach this in terms of really wishing to merge with the wisdom of Khyentse Wangpo. So that's where I first have this quote from Kangyur Rinpoche, the father of Jigme Khyentse Rinpoche and Tugu Pema Wangyal. And Khyentse Wangpo said, Bima Mitra Chiname, Bima Mitra Chikiku. Vimala Mitra is not external. Vimala Mitra is the Dharmakaya. And this, of course, also applies to Khyentse Wangpo. And we have this famous quote from the Diamond Sutra, where it says, whoever sees me as a form, this is the Buddha speaking, whoever knows me as a sound, has strayed upon the path of error. Such beings see me not. And then also the other day I came across Kyabje Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche's translation, or rather the translation of Khyentse Rinpoche's life of Jamgun Mipam. And in there, he discusses how Jamgun Mipam, of course, displayed a number of miracles. But then again, Mipam Rinpoche didn't really make a big deal about this. And so Khyentse Rinpoche, he says, by and large, Mipam declared that between the ages of 20 and 30, his clairvoyance was unobstructed. And although he worked many extraordinary miracles at that time, I have been unable to record them in writing according to a strict and clear order. Moreover, because Mipam Rinpoche subsequently adopted a mode of conduct that was secret and hidden, there is not much evidence in his later life attesting to this aspect of his character. In any case, and this is the significant part, as a mean to ascertaining that he was a great day star of the definitive and ultimate secret, the wisdom of all the Buddhas, simply to talk according to our common perceptions about a great being such as this, whether in terms of the deities that he beheld or the minor miracles that he worked, is to do only what is liable to lead childish beings astray. Nevertheless, in order to plant the seeds of wondrous admiration in the reader's mind, I have described a few events that were ratified by what certain devoted beings had seen or heard. So in this way, we appreciate Khyentse Wangpo and rejoice. And this generates, you could say, the openness and the humility and the possibility that something could transpire in terms of what we call blessings on the basis of our faith in Khyentse Wangpo. So this is then from Matthew's Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo's Guide to Central Tibet. So Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, Kunga Tempe Gyaltsen, who lived from 1820 to 92, was a great spiritual master, a lama of lamas, uncommonly learned and accomplished in the teachings of the past masters of all traditions, who was also the guiding inspiration behind the modern enterprise of compiling and editing those teachings for posterity. Khyentse Wangpo was the genius behind the Rimé, the non-sectarian Rimé movement, which flourished in his native Daege principality during his lifetime. Most of the now canonical encyclopedic compilations which form its literary corpus were actually the work of his colleagues, Jamyang Khyentse in particular, Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, and Mipam Namgyal Gyatso, but with his guidance, and it was his flawless mastery of the teachings and unrivaled power as a visionary that underpinned this enterprise and made him the godfather of Eastern Tibet's 19th century intellectual renaissance and arguably the most influential religious figure of the age. This is explained by the non-sectarian tradition itself in terms of an extraordinary, almost kaleidoscopic, spiritual ancestry. According to this scheme, Khyentse Rinpoche was regarded as a single culminative personification of the incarnations of Pandita Bimalamitra and of the treasure-revealing emanations prophesied by Guru Padmasambhava in the Nyingma tradition. In the biography, his antecedents are organized as follows. First, the Indians, starting with the Dzogchen master Manjushri Mitra, followed by Vimala Mitra, Vajragantapada, Pandita Pratiharanatha Mati, and Pandita Vararatna. And second, the Tibetans, starting with King Trisong Detsen. And from there, the trajectory proceeds via the king's grandson and reincarnation, Gyaltse Lhaje, through the 12 successive Tathon reincarnations of the tradition, of whom Khyentse himself, under the alias Pema Wessel Dongaglingba, was the prophesied and final 13th. Simultaneously, he is said to have been the synthetic emanation of the 5 royal treasure revealers, or incarnations of Trisong Detsen. Running through this progression, like the weft threads of a weaver's loom, are a series of historic masters, many of them contemporaneous, whose emanational principles coalesced in Khyentse Wangpo's person. Nakso Lotsawa Tsultrim, Nakso Lotsawa Tsultrim Gyel, Drumtun Gyelwa Jongne, Rechongpa Dojajak, Gambopa Sonam Rinchen, Jetsun Takpa Gyalsen, Chögyal Pakpa, Longchen Ramjamba, Panchen Gendrindrup, Shalu Kyenrap Chöje, Tangtung Gyalpo, and Nesa Khyentse Wangchu. In addition, Khyentse Rinpoche told his biographer of fragmentary memories from previous lives as Padampa Sanje, Chel Amogavajra, Nyemdu Sonampel, the father of Kamaparangtung Dorje, the son of Tatun Changchub Lingpa, and consort of Tatun Dorje Lingpa. Thus, beyond the prodigious learning, his studies of the sutras, tantras, and sadhanas with 100 living masters, which constitutes the outer life of biographical convention, Khyentse Wangpo was considered by his contemporaries as the ultimate treasure revealer of prophecy, qualified by his previous lives for mastery in all the Tibetan spiritual disciplines of the previous millennium. The significance of this role had a definite historical context, for the non-sectarian movement of his time emerged partly as a moral and intellectual reaction to the perceived degeneration of the classical teachings, hastened by the politicized sectarianism and intolerance, which had cast deepening shadows over national affairs during the turbulent 18th century and growing Mongol and Manchu influence. Many of the authentic lineages developed in Tibet during the golden age of Buddhist learning, like the Shangpa-Kagyü and Jonangpa, had been either incorporated or outlawed by the later schools, and their revival was scarcely possible except through direct visionary contact with the past masters and lineage holders. So it was that the last of the prophesied great treasure revealers made few direct physical discoveries, but retrieved a wealth of hidden texts, initiations, and instructions in dreams, visions, and memories. These are classified in the encyclopedic style of the period, such as the close transmissions of the 8 great systems, the Shinta Chenpo Gye, which we, by the way, have in Jamyang Khyentse's Dhamma, the Treasury of Spiritual Instructions. And these then constitute Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo's inner life. And then, like Dolma was mentioning before, the Kabab Dün, the 7 destined transmissions. And this then constitutes the secret life. Many of these revelations took place in Yuzhang, in central Tibet. The degeneration of the older schools and contemplative traditions in the home provinces of the modern Tibetan state, where they had originally flourished, and their migration to the periphery of the Tibetan world was a trend of historic dimensions, going back at least to the political upheavals of the 17th century. Yet, in some ways, the pioneers of the non-sectarian movement, and Khyentse Rinpoche in particular, could be said to personify the eastward shift in the center of gravity. His most immediate spiritual forebear, his previous incarnation, Rigzen Jigme Lingpa, who lived from 1730 to 98, was the last great Nyingma master to appear in central Tibet, whose 3 incarnate successors were natives of Kham, where the tradition lived on. And these 3 being Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, Dokhyentse Yeshe Dorje, and also Palchul Rinpoche. The Dege Principality was by then the cultural and artisanal center of Kham, where the region's foremost monastic academies thrived on the patronage of the royal family and local nobility, and provided fertile ground for the manifold works of Khyentse and his contemporaries. For them, central Tibet was an almost museum-like holy land, a repository of tremendous blessings, the fabulous relics and images, the ancient temples and sanctuaries where Khyentse Rinpoche experienced visions and memories of past lives, but at the same time, a place of darkness where the teachings were no longer practiced or even taught, where historic monasteries of the older schools, names familiar from their scriptures and the oral traditions of their teachers, were to be found deserted or reduced to rustic shrines. Khyentse Rinpoche spent his teens as a monk at Tsongsa and visiting scholar at other great monasteries in the region, and first traveled to central Tibet, Yuzhang, at the age of 20, so this was in 1839, to take Bhikkhu ordination and pursue his studies. He came from a noble family. His father was a senior palace official, and at the age of 12, he had been recognized as the reincarnation of Tatse Khenchen Jamba Namkha Chime, who lived from 1765 to 1820, by the Tatse Labrang at Ngor, the great monastery in Tsang, with which the royal family and the Tsongsa monastery had close relations. Apparently the role didn't suit him, as not very long after reaching Tatse Labrang, he took his leave and traveled to Mindraling in a very informal manner, accompanied only by his attendant, where he took higher ordination in the Nyingma tradition instead. That year, 1840, he traveled far and wide in Ü, central Tibet, through Lodrak to Bumtang in Bhutan and back, studying with the living representatives of the various traditions and seeking out the seats of the past masters and the many blessings they held in store. He went with his only faithful attendant, Tsultrik Gyatso, and perhaps a horse. But Khyentse Rinpoche didn't ride. Actually, I think I have here there's a little picture here of this of Khyentse Wangpo as he's traveling with his attendant. His enthusiasm for hard travel became legendary. The numerous pairs of boots he wore out on the pilgrimage path, for example, later became a popular metaphor of sincere determination among his followers. According to the biography, he visited sacred places and images throughout Yuzhang and as far as Bhutan, Hlumen. While on his journey to receive the teachings of the noble spiritual teachers in those areas, he traveled in the style of a perfect renunciant, accompanied only by his worthy attendant, Tsultring Gyatso. He made obeisance, offerings, and prayers before the sacred places and images to the fullest extent, and suffered much hardship to do so, as can be seen by the fact that at times he even had no shoes and went barefoot. Now, actually, we have there's an anecdote that goes that Khyentse Wangpo wore out 55 pairs of shoes. I should just get rid of this here. It was conventional in those days for young Khampa lamas to travel to Ütsang, central Tibet, for some form of higher education at the mother monastery of their school and visit Lhasa, Samye, and other holy places along the way. But for an incarnate lama to go off on months on pilgrimage, carrying a backpack and with only one companion, having declined enthronement at a great monastery, was quite a gesture of defiance. Khyentse Rinpoche went back to Ngor and was very much based at Tatset Labrang during his years in central Tibet, but his decision to take to the road soon after arrival was effectively the moment at which he rejected the brilliant institutional career awaiting him there and went in search of something more. The first period of study and travel in Ütsang lasted nearly 4 years. He returned to Kham and Songsa in the summer of 1843 in the company of Khen Rinpoche Jamyang Zangpo, who tutored him in the Ngorpa Tantric curriculum over the following months. They went back to central Tibet together in the autumn of 1848, where Khyentse Rinpoche spent 3 more years studying with various teachers, including Kamapa Tekchok Dorje, Shalu Losel Tenkyong, Taklong Matrul, Tempe Nyima, Mindruling Jetsunma Trinle Chodron, Simok Choktrul Tensen Yendrak, Samding Dorje Pamo Cheng Dechen Tsomo, and Chaksam Choktrul Tenzen Khenrab Tutok, visiting places of pilgrimage, revealing treasures, and realizing several more of the prophesied visionary transmissions and memories of past lives. In the autumn of 1851, at the age of 32, he returned to Dege for good and embarked on the mature phase of his career, the literary culmination of which was the now famous compendia of the rare teachings he had sought out and researched all over Ütsang and Kham, like the compendium of sādhana and Kongtrul's 5 treasuries. So some of you would be familiar with this compendium of sādhana, the Druptab Kuntu, which Khyentse Rinpoche gave a few years ago in Chontra. And also many would be familiar with Kongtrul's 5 treasuries, which include the Rinchen Tertse, the Shejat Kunkyaptse, the Gyatchen Kadze, the Kajung Atse, and the Damadze. And many of these actually, some of them are actually translated into English. Not all, and you could say a fraction of them, but nevertheless, these are texts that some of us might be familiar with. So I hope you're all good with this format, and this is what I normally do really with reading the life of written by others. I tell you honestly, if I was to try to sort of summarize in my own words, it wouldn't be nearly as interesting, obviously. So here I'd like to read then from the Treasury of Lives. Some of you would be familiar with this website, where Alex Gardner has actually done an incredible job together with friends of collecting life stories of hundreds of masters in the Tibetan tradition. So this is his own writing, and he writes, over the decade of the 1850s, Khyentse Wangpo collaborated so closely with 2 men that the 3 continued to be referred to as the Khen Kong Choksum, meaning the triumvirate, or triad of Khyentse Wangpo, Jamyang Khyentse Lodrötaya, and Chögyö Lingpa. Jamyang Khyentse was a prominent tuku at Papung, the Kaju monastery, a half-day's walk from Tsongsa. Chögyö Lingpa was an up-and-coming treasure revealer active in the Derge and Nangchen regions of Kham, who relied on both Khyentse and Kongtrul for his initial affirmation of legitimacy. So this is then now, what we're looking at now is then, like Matthew Ackister before was referring to, the mature part of Khyentse Wangpo's life, where then everything that he had collected, he then began to pass on. And it was very much in cooperation with these two masters. So Tsongsa Khyentse Rinpoche will often highlight his closeness with the Choling lineage and also the Kongtrul Rinpoches. So of course we have nowadays tulkus of these masters as well. Khyentse Wangpo met Jamgung Kongtrul at the end of 1840 when he went to Papong to receive teachings from the Elder Lama on Chandragoming's grammar. They met again before Jamyang Khyentse went to Tibet the second time. Khyentse Wangpo's beloved elder brother, Gyurme Döndrup, had passed away in Tibet, and it appears that in his grief, Khyentse Wangpo turned to his growing friendship with Jamgung Kongtrul for companionship. He went to Papong for an extensive transmission of Jonang teachings, including the complete works of Taranatha and Kalachakra. Jamgung Kongtrul continued his transmissions of Jonang teachings to Khyentse Wangpo after the latter returned from Tibet in the early 1850s, giving Taranatha's Druptap Rinjung to him. At the same time, Khyentse Wangpo gave Jamgung Kongtrul a complete set of Taranatha's writings. Khyentse Wangpo appears to have first met Chögyal Lingpa when Jamgung Kongtrul sent the young treasure revealer for evaluation sometime between the end of 1853 and the end of 1855. Actually, if you look at Ujin Topkal Rinpoche's narrative about Chögyal Lingpa's life, he describes how Chögyal Lingpa had many teachings directly from Guru Rinpoche, treasure teachings, but at the same time he was unknown, and so there wasn't really a deep respect for him. And it was only when he met Jamgung Kongtrul that Kongtrul recognized how great he was, and he then sent him to Khyentse Wangpo with a letter of recommendation. It's from then on, actually, the activity of Chögyal Lingpa, as well as this work together with Khyentse Wangpo unfolded. We'll look a little bit later at an example of how this manifested. It was during this time that Khyentse Wangpo, by then a respected Lama, gave his public approval to the struggling treasure revealer. There is reason to believe that Chögyal Lingpa attended a public empowerment at Tsongsa prior to this meeting, but the accounts of these events by Jamgung Kongtrul and Khyentse Wangpo are muddled, and it is impossible to determine the sequence of events. In any case, over the 2 years, Khyentse Wangpo gave Chögyal Lingpa 3 empowerments, the result of which was that the young treasure revealer's psychic knots were untied and he became capable and, of equal importance, publicly authorized to reveal treasure. During the last of the empowerment rites, Chögyal Lingpa is said to have experienced a number of visions, including seeing Khyentse Wangpo as Vimalamitra, and also the Nyingma deity Ekajati, who gave him the prophecy that he and Khyentse Wangpo would together discover a treasure cycle called the Dzogchen Desum. 2 years later, Khyentse Wangpo did indeed extract a treasure by that name in collaboration with Chögyal Lingpa. In January 1857, the 2 lamas sanctified or opened, in Tibetan parlance, a new meditation site for Khyentse Wangpo, the cave known as Pema Shelpuk, or Lotus Crystal Cave. This was in part a public ceremony in which the visitors were invited to witness the process by which the cave and the surrounding hillside was mapped out as a supernatural site. They identified a spring of medicinal water, an overhang where Vimalamitra was said to have practiced, and so forth. Khyentse Wangpo also participated in the sanctification of Jamgung Kongtrul's hermitage above Palpong, Tsata Rinsendrak, a month later. Let's just see here. Khyentse and Chögyal Lingpa again collaborated on the sanctification of a site near Tsongsa, Rongmo Kamotang Taktsang, a cave site that became the hermitage for the monastery's college at the beginning of the 20th century. Over a 2-week period in November 1866, the two identified caves, propitiated deities on the site, and extracted treasure, the Tuktup Dorje from a lake, Sengu Yutso, the wild lion turquoise lake. So a bit later we'll look at Ujin Topgyal's narrative or account of this. The Rongme opening was a major ritual event in the region, attracting the presence not only of large crowds of people, but also the king of Derge, Chime Takpe Dorje. Romo Kamo later offered Khyentse Wangpo's disciple, the famous Nyingma Lama Ju Mipam Rinpoche, Ju Mipam Gyatso, a location for long-term practice. Mipam is said to have resided there for 13 years. When the group went up to the lake, a small body of water in the midst of a sacred field, more than 15,000 feet above sea level, Chögyal Rinpoche declared that a Naga was guarding the treasure and that everyone should be quiet so as not to offend him. Khyentse is said to have responded, "What is there to fear in a Naga? It is a worm. The so-called Naga has no primordial existence. If he is there, I want to wake him up. I do not fear Naga. If there is a Naga, let it come here." At which point he threw many stones into the lake. The others, obeying Chögyal Rinpoche's command, refrained from throwing stones. Chögyal Rinpoche then attempted to retrieve the treasure using his robe as a lasso. When the lake water suddenly churned violently, Chögyal Rinpoche shrieked and fell back. Khyentse Wangpo slapped him, scolding him that as Padmasambhava's representative he ought not to be afraid. After the treasure was finally obtained, Khyentse Wangpo claimed that they succeeded because of the rocks he had thrown in, and on the way down the mountain he continued to throw rocks at people, claiming that everyone he struck was purified of the negative karma. So here we have OT's rendition of this moment. So he says, at Rongme, Khyentse and Choling called for Jamyang Khyentse. Choling told Khyentse, "A precious Tama is to be discovered, but you must call the king of Derge." Khyentse Rinpoche wrote a letter, and the king of Derge came with many chiefs, filling the whole area with horses and men. Everyone went to Kamotaktang. At the end of the town was a big cave where Guru Rinpoche had appeared as Dorje Trollo. There Chögyal Rinpoche sang many songs, saying, "Now I will take some tamas. If everything is auspicious and works out well, I have things to do for Tibet." Even Khyentse Rinpoche was amazed and sang a lot of songs. Choling told everyone to recite the Vajraguru mantra and the Dusum Sanja prayer. He said, "If the three of us work together, we can really do something." Proceeding to where the Tama was located, Choling Rinpoche put a note on a pine tree telling the guardian of the Tama to give it to him. Then they went to a rock. Choling opened the rock and extracted a Vajra, leaving it half out and half in just for show. He removed a Tama box and let everyone come and touch it with his head. That was the Lamrim Yeshe Ningpo. The Vajra is now in the reliquary of Tsongsa Khyentse in Sikkim. Or at least it was. Saying, "I have more to do," Choling took out a quantity of sacred medicine which came from the 25 disciples. He ordered everyone, "Don't sleep tonight, but recite the Vajraguru mantra and supplicate Guru Rinpoche." Choling said he had yet more to accomplish. The group remained singing songs all night. Choling made the king and his ministers dance and sing as well. The next day they went into the hills between the rocks. Amidst many small hills was a lake known as Sengi Yutso, the turquoise lion lake. The lake was frozen and everyone was told to throw stones at the ice. Most people did, and the stronger ones threw big rocks, and the ice of the lake broke with loud cracking sounds. They were told to throw more stones, but Khyentse Rinpoche cautioned, "Don't throw the stones too hard, or the Nagas will be disturbed." Khyentse Rinpoche laughed, "Ha ha! How can there be Nagas? Nagas don't exist. That which is called Naga is empty. If there are Nagas, we should wake them up. Even if they exist, they are animals and I'm not afraid. So if there are Nagas, let them come." Then he began throwing many large stones. Chögyal Rinpoche removed his yogic skirt, tied it with his belt and threw it in the lake. Pulling it back, it was empty. Then his rosary broke and he said, "Even if we do not find the term, at least we should find the rosary beads." He told everyone to look for the beads, and they found them. Saying, "Now I had better concentrate on the Nagas," he again threw his robes in the lake and pulled them back up. The lake was now full of scorpions, and feeling a bit scared, Choling came back. Jamyang Khyentse slapped him on the cheek and said, "As Gorimpe's representative, why are you afraid? Throw it again." Choling threw the robe again and found a piece of gold the size of a sheep's belly. The lake was now full of gold, and everyone took some. Kapo Tsacho, the master of ceremonies, had a big silver bowl for making tormas and filling it with water. The water later turned to gold. After this, Jamyang Khyentse, for no special reason, became very angry and chased everyone with stones, so they ran away. He said whoever he hit with a stone that day would not take rebirth in the lower realms. If he had the king of Dege, if he had hit, I guess I should say, if he had hit the king of Dege, the Dharma would have remained in Dege for a long time. But the king ran away before Choling could hit him. It must be Khyentse Wangpo actually, before Khyentse Wangpo could hit him. They camped at the upper end of the valley. Khyentse Rinpoche was no longer angry. They camped near many naturally appeared Mani mantras, which all resounded by themselves that night. Choling and the others were talking about these Mani mantras, discussing whether the Om needed a superscribed Achung or not, a subscribed Achung or not. Karma Khenpo said that it did not, but Jamyang Khyentse argued that indeed it did. It needs the 5 wisdoms, he says. As the discussion dragged on, Jamyang Khyentse again became angry and began to throw stones, giving Karma Khenpo a severe beating. Karma Khenpo did not run away, but remained sitting. That day, his life's major obstacle was cleared away. Later on, when he was old and blind, he said, "I will not die, I will not fall sick. All this is thanks to Khyentse Rinpoche stoning me." So, this then concludes Ujjain Topgyal Rinpoche's narrative, and then back to Alex Gardner's story of Khyentse. So, Khyentse Wangpo was a crucial player in the promotion of Chögyal Lingpa's treasures. Following Chögyal Lingpa's death in 1870, Khyentse Wangpo composed a brief biography of him in which his complete treasures were categorized into 37 separate revelations or caskets. He also took it upon himself to be a co-revealer of several of Chögyal Lingpa's treasures, most famously the popular Bache Kunsel, and assertion that would probably be taken as part of the Elder Lama's process of affirming the treasure revealer's legitimacy. Chögyal Lingpa is said to have revealed the treasure in 1848. In 1855, the two worked together to decipher the treasure, an act which both Jamgon Kongtrul and Khyentse Wangpo describe as a merging of 2 separate revelations. Tradition has it that many of Chögyal Lingpa's treasure were initially fated to be revealed by Khyentse Wangpo, who passed them instead to the younger revealer. Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo also participated in the production of Jamgon Kongtrul's well-known 5 treasuries, the Dzönga. According to traditional accounts, it was in a dream that Khyentse Wangpo had in 1861, in which he had a vision of a 5-doored stupa, which signified to him that Jamgon Kongtrul ought to create 5 treasuries. Khyentse Wangpo proposed the Kajungatse in 1848, declaring that the available liturgies for the Ngok mandalas were inadequate, and he repeated the request from Tibet, where he received a prophecy that Jamgon Kongtrul should undertake the job of collecting ritual manuals for the Kagyu Tantras. In 1855, Khyentse Wangpo suggested the organization of the Rinchen Tadze, and he advised which treasures to include. And while it was the Kagyu Lama Dapsang Tuku Kamangedön who asked for the root text of the Sheja Kunhyap, it was Khyentse Wangpo who insisted that Jamgon Kongtrul write a lengthy auto-commentary. Now, just a word on this. Rinchen Tadze, many would have heard about how just recently Rabjam Rinpoche gave this in Mindraling Monastery in India, and also a couple of years ago, Tsongtse Khyentse Rinpoche gave this transmission at Takila in Bhutan. This is an enormous collection of all the most important treasure teachings from the Nyingma tradition down through the ages. And yet it's really just, you could say, the cream of all the thousands of revelations that exist. But it's a very large work, and some of the practices and the tantras and so forth, instructions from there have been translated, but only really a fraction. Now, when it comes to the Shedya Kunkyap, the Encyclopedia of Knowledge, that has actually been translated into English, and it's in the Tibetan version, it's 3 volumes, but in the English translation we have like 10 thick volumes like that. And also the Damradze, the collection of spiritual treasure, for the most part also a large section has been translated. Again, an enormous amount of books. This just gives just to say a little bit about the enormity of Jamyang Khyentse's writings, which we can see here, of course, came about on the basis of Khyentse Wangpo's guidance. So, only the last of the 5, Jamyang Khyentse's collected miscellaneous writing, lacked input from Khyentse Wangpo, and that's a work called the Gyacheng Kadze, which I don't think has been translated into English so far. Well before he put the idea of his colleague to create 5 great treasuries, Khyentse Wangpo had begun his own massive collection, the Druptab Kuntu, a compendium of Sakya sadhanas that he first began when he was staying at Sakya in the late 1840s. According to Jamyang Khyentse, he gave the empowerment for the collection in 1852 at Papung for a group of about 20 prominent lamas. Khyentse Wangpo was the main inspiration and patron of Jamyang Lotha Wangpo's Gyude Kuntu in 32 volumes, a collection of initiation manuals for the 132 mandalas of the Sakya tradition. According to Lodro Phuntsok, who I believe is still alive and is a doctor and very important person for upholding the legacy of Khyentse Wangpo at Tsongsa Monastery in Tibet, according to him, Khyentse Wangpo also produced a collection of Lamdre Lobshe instructions in 17 volumes and 8 volumes of songs and instructions from the 8 practice lineages. Although this later collection is not included in the works associated with Khyentse Wangpo on TBRC, Tibetan Buddhist Resource Center. In addition, 13 additional volumes of material not included in the above, which constitute his personal collected works, the Kabum, which runs to 24 volumes. Khyentse Wangpo also famously authored a pilgrimage guide to Tibet, the Utsang Neig, which has been translated several times into English. And this is then the one I was mentioning before that Matthew Ackerster has translated and expounded upon, really. It was largely on the basis of these impressive compendiums of teachings that Khyentse Wangpo is often referred to as a member of the so-called Rimé movement. It is more accurate to say that he embodied the ecumenical ideal, long cherished by Tibetan scholars, as one of appreciating and exploring multiple traditions of Buddhism in Tibet. It's important to remember that Khyentse Wangpo was the Sakya Lama whose primary ritual and literary activity was dedicated to that tradition, and while he worked closely with the Kagyu Jamyang Khyentse and the Nyingma Chögyal Lingpa, neither he nor his colleagues made any effort to merge traditions or initiate new teaching institutions. So what is meant here is that, of course, there's this non-sectarian approach that appreciates all the teachings, but it doesn't mean that there's some sort of syncretism where everything is merged into just one big soup. Very much there's an appreciation of the qualities of each individual tradition. Khyentse Wangpo, so this is just to really refer to what we call the Rimé tradition, the non-sectarian tradition. Khyentse Wangpo served the Dergi court for most of his career, both alone and together with Jamyang Khyentse and Chögyal Lingpa. He regularly went to the capital to perform rituals for the royal family and for the well-being of the realm. In 1859, for example, the three were in Daege to perform exorcism rites for the kingdom at the request of the queen, Chuang Zangmo, and her two sons, including the future king, Chimedagbe Dorje, during which Jamyang Khyentse records that Khyentse Wangpo gave the most amazing lecture. Jamyang Khyentse took the opportunity to give the queen, her sons, and his two colleagues the empowerment of the entire Nyingma Karma. Later that same year, Khyentse Wangpo participated in rituals designed to consecrate the ground for a new temple to the northeast of Daege. The construction of Chögyalingpa had predicted would prevent the coming onslaught of the Nyarong War, owing to sectarian conflicts in Daege. But then it happened that it was never built. During the war, Khyentse Wangpo ransomed the safety of Tsongsa, although some buildings were burned by the Nyarong chieftain Gompo Namgyal's forces. For the most part, he seems to have avoided the sort of involvement in the war that befell Jamyang Khyentse, who found himself ministering to both Gompo Namgyal and to the Tibetan forces from Lhasa, who arrived to defeat him. Khyentse Wangpo also drafted legislation, writing again with Chögyalingpa, a law restricting the killing of wild animals in the kingdom. So, just due to restraints of time, I'm going to skip over some of the last here. I'll just take these last two paragraphs. Khyentse Wangpo is also remembered for greatly expanding Tsongsa Monastery. He built a 50-pillar temple there, the Tashitlatse Utse Gyönjang Hlakang, and he also built a small 6-pillar temple, the Riksum Hlakang, on the plain below Tsongsa Monastery, known in local dialect as Kamshetang. And by the way, nowadays when we talk about the Khyentse Chögyi Lodra Institute in Chontra, this is actually the continuation of this college that is known as Kamje Shedra. So, and this was located then on the plain below Tsongsa. This temple was transformed by the second Khyentse Chögyi Lodra into the Kamshe Monastic College. So that's what we have nowadays in Chontra. Khyentse Wangpo died on March the 19th, 1892, the 21st day of the second month of the Water Dragon year. Jamyang Khyentse presided over the funeral, washing his body and preparing them for cremation. He performed a 5-day Vajrakila practice in his presence, and with the aid of Tatse Khenpo and Lota Wangpo, performed 3 weeks of additional rituals. Jamyang Khyentse's brother Khesang Dorje, the head steward of Tsongsa, paid for much of the funeral. An elaborate reliquary was installed in Tsongsa, recently reconstructed together with much of the monastery. So this is about Khyentse Wangpo, but about his life, and then I just want to sort of briefly go over what we refer to as the Kabab Dön, which are primarily the treasure teachings that Khyentse Wangpo received. And like Alex Gardner and also Matthew Ackister were saying, it was really as if Khyentse Wangpo was sort of the culmination of all the treasures that had been passed down through the many centuries of the Nyingma tradition, pretty much an entire millennium really of treasure teachings. But there's seven treasures as such, and Ackister translates this Kabab Dön as 7 destined transmissions, which I kind of like. It really means that this is transmissions that were particularly meant for somebody. So Khyentse Wangpo is said together with Chögyalingpa are the only ones who actually hold these 7 transmissions. So these are the visionary empowerment from Guru Padmasambhava, ordaining the 7 transmissions. The physical, so that's what we call, I think that's what we call Gunther, or mind transmissions, I think. Then there's physical treasure revelations, sater, and these are the transmissions of the treasure teachings that are actually taken out of the ground in the sense of taking out of rocks or taking out of some physical repositories, and actually, they're actual objects. Then we have revelation of reconciled treasures. And these are treasure teachings that at one point were lost, might have been revealed in the early days. Like, for example, what we nowadays refer to as the Sasum Drildup was one of the first, if not the first, treasure teaching that was revealed by somebody called Sanje Lama in the, I think, 10th century. And the transmission was lost. And then later Khyentse Wangpo again received these from Padmasambhava and essentially re-established this treasure that had been lost. Then there's mental treasure revelations, and that's the Dolma Gunther, treasure revealed through recollection, remembering past events, revelation of divine visions, Tanga, and oral transmissions and divine visions. So that's where we have the Nyenju, for example, the Nyenju Purba and so forth. I wanted to just read a short section from Dujum Rinpoche's account of one of the transmissions, which is his account on an example of a transmission that took place in the life of Khyentse Wangpo. It says here, concerning Khyentse Wangpo's succession to the transmitted precept of the distant lineage, in his 16th year, at dawn on May 6, Saturday, 6th of May, 1835, he went to the Lotus Light Palace on Kamaravipa in a pure vision. And in some accounts, actually, we say Khyentse Wangpo had passed away. He was what we call Delo. He actually was ill and just appeared to be dead for a week. And it's during this time then that he had this experience. Going to the Lotus Light Palace on Kamaravipa, the copper-colored mountain, in a pure vision. There, in a magnificent mountain range, in the midst of especially white clouds, he met Guru Saroruhavajra, Sokya Dorje in Tibetan, surrounded by a host of dakinis. The Guru intentionally blessed him, conferred symbolic empowerment, and greatly inspired him by foretelling his 7 successions to the transmitted precepts. Finally, adopting a gaze, he said, untainted by graspable objects, untarnished by grasping thoughts, maintaining naked awareness and emptiness, this is the intention of all Buddhas. Then, together with his retinue, he vanished into the Master himself, who consequently felt that his spirituality of the Guru had merged indivisibly with his mind. Henceforth, he acquired a natural security in the abiding nature of primordial purity. He became utterly enthusiastic and prayed one-pointedly to Guru Rinpoche, owing to which he effortlessly obtained all the transmitted precepts and treasures of the ancient and new transmissions of the sutras and tantras, along with their maturation, liberation, and supporting transmissions, as well as exceedingly rare continuous lineages. Through his experiential cultivation, teaching, and propagation of them, he rekindled the dying embers of the teaching. So this was a little bit about Khyentse Wangpo's life. And at this point, I think we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll practice together. We'll practice the Guru Yoga from Khyentse Wangpo himself, and we'll be practicing according to a translation then by Khyentse Vision. So we'll just take a 5-minute break and we'll reconvene. So welcome back. And at this point, then we'll do some practice together. So we'll first do, you could say, traditional format with invoking the lineage and also the previous lives of Khyentse Wangpo, and then we'll be doing the practice itself. Yeah. See. And also there's if you notice in the chat, Dolma just announced that there's a place where we can actually find Jamyang Khyentse Rinpoche's teachings on the particular Guru Yoga that we're going to be practicing. So please don't miss that. So we'll start with chanting the 7-line supplication at one time in Tibetan, and then the rest will be in English. Om Jamyang Home on the northwest border of the land of Uddiyana, on the pistil of a lotus flower and a stem, you have attained wondrous Siddhi, renowned as Padmakara, surrounded by a retinue of many dakinis. Following you, I reach accomplishment. Please come and grant your blessings. Guru Pema Siddhi Hom. Okay, excuse me. Glorious, precious root Guru, please dwell on the lotus seat on the crown of my head. Care for me with your great kindness and bestow the siddhis of body, speech, and mind. Emaho, in simplicity, the Buddha field of Dharmadhatu, within Dharmata, unborn and unceasing throughout the 3 times. Mahasukakaya, free from activities, spontaneously perfect, whose compassion is like the sky, without direction or bias. Dharmakaya Guru, we supplicate you. We supplicate Uddiyana Padmakara. In the Buddha field of spontaneous great bliss, Sugatakaya, endowed with the 5 wisdoms of body, speech, mind, quality, and action, displaying various aspects of compassion as appropriate. Sambhogakaya Gurus, we supplicate you. We supplicate Uddiyana Padmakara. Into the pure infinite Buddha field of this world, great compassionate ones, you come to benefit beings. Taming beings by various means, you accomplish their benefit. Niyamanakaya Gurus of the 3 times, past, present, and future, we supplicate you. We supplicate Uddiyana Padmakara. Samantabhadra, Vajrasattva, Prayavajra, Sri Singha, Padmakara, and the 25 disciples, the king and the subjects, the clans of So, Sur, Nup, and Nyar, the 100 treasure revealers, and the rest, gurus of the oral and treasure lineages, I supplicate you. Equal in compassion, learning, and realization to the two supreme ones and the 6 ornaments of the world. Still you trained or stilly hidden in the sacred forest, Longchenpa, you who knows samsara and nirvana as the Dharmakaya. Noble Trimosa, I supplicate you. Nature of awareness, primal all-pervading purity, wholly free from the illusion of substantiality, who directly sees the nature changeless and absolute. Yongzing Dojizin, I supplicate you. Eye of the world, learned in the perfect threefold training, who through the yoga that makes manifest the nature of profound reality, has brought the fortunate to the ripeness of the 4 bodies. Noble Triple Gyamso, Lord of Speech, I supplicate you. The one who knows all that can be known, the treasure of compassion for beings, incarnation of Trimewazar, repository of mind treasures, sky-like yogis of the luminous great expanse, noble Jigmelinpa, I supplicate you. And then invoking Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo himself through what we would call the garland of lives, or invoking recollecting his previous lives. So this was written by Jamyang Khyentse and is called The Melodious Speech That Gathers Auspiciousness. Knowing all there is to be known, how it is and how it appears, through non-referential compassion, thinking of beings as if your own children. You are the Dharma King who churns the depths of samsara. Noble Khyentse Wangpo, I supplicate at your feet. Sole Father of the victorious ones, noble Manjushri, among your emanations that pervade the Dharmadhatus to tame beings through various means, you took birth through intention as the glorious protector of the teachings and beings in this dark age. I supplicate you. In the medicinal valley of the 10 virtues of the 4 regions of Rimé, at the miraculous place of taming beings through activity, through the 5 sublime considerations such as excellent bloodline and so on, one who appeared as the Nirmanakaya, I supplicate you. The sublime guides who have attained wisdom, with one voice prophesied you as a noble being, since you transcend the ordinary conduct of all gods and humans, one who is praised as the Lord of beings, I supplicate you. Traveling throughout Yutsang and Greater Tibet, you served under more than 100 masters through the 3 ways of pleasing. Thoroughly searching without weariness for the sublime Dharma, one whose intentions is boundless, I supplicate you. When meditating at the cave of Sachin, the mudra of the wisdom deity dissolved into your heart, completely liberating the 8 great treasures of eloquence, one who has perfected the great power of the 2 knowledges, I supplicate you. Sanskrit, logic, arts, medicine, mathematics, poetry, and so on, the 5 areas of knowledge along with their branches, because you have perfected these, one whose fame as learned has pervaded the land of snows, I supplicate you. By merely looking at them, you understood in depth all of the Vinaya, Abhidhamma, Madhyamika, Prajnaparamita, and Tantras of secret mantra, having attained retention without forgetfulness, one who displays, without concealing, the qualities of the unchanging wheel, I supplicate you. Graceful with the precious adornment of unstained discipline, you magnetize the minds of fortunate ones with your white smile of meditation, and move the 3 worlds to delight with your charming music of prajna. Sovereign of the 3 trainings, I supplicate you. Your Dharma eyes of profound and vast knowledge are free of dust. Teaching, debating, and composing without obstruction or hindrance, you have exhausted the stains of faults in all activities. One in whom gods and humans have faith, I supplicate you. Hiding your own qualities like treasure in the ocean, you praise and respected the meager qualities of others. One who to benefit the teachings and beings gave away as if chaff even his most cherished possessions, I supplicate you. Possessing an ocean of recollection, meditation, and clairvoyance, although qualified as an object for the offerings of the 3 worlds, you are without pride or arrogance. One who suffered great pains for the sake of a single word of sublime Dharma, I supplicate you. Administration and the like related to superficial Dharma, Since you never relied on such ordinary activities, like a fearless lion, your conduct was perfect, one beyond compare on this earth, I supplicate you. All the rivers of scripture explanation and pith instructions, without exception, of the tradition of the 8 great chariots of the practice lineages are gathered in the ocean of your heart. One who continued the life nadis of the teachings through the flow of the stream of ripening and liberation, I supplicate you. Great charioteer of the complete teachings of Shakyamuni, you are the friend who impartially tames all those to be tamed of all traditions. One who is the crown jewel, I supplicate you. Performing all activities solely for the benefit of others, you possess the manifold wondrous signs of benefiting all those with whom you are connected, and create inconceivable great accumulations of merit. Noble sovereign of the 10th Bhumi, I supplicate you. The Udayana Guru and consort, noble Vimalamitra, the ancestral Dharma kings, Choan, the omniscient one, and so on whom blessings and accomplishment are bestowed. By the Gurus and Yidam deities of the lineages of the 9 yanas, I supplicate you. The great compassionate one, the uncle and the nephews, along with the lineage holders, and moreover the numerous scholars and siddhas of the noble land and Tibet, having bestowed on you the empowerments and entrusted the tantras in person, in experiences and in dreams, one who has been cared for again and again, I supplicate you. Particularly Acharya Manjushri Mitra, bestowing the secret treasury of Sutra and Tantra, blessed you as the wisdom body, one in whom that complete knowledge and realization has been awakened as inseparable, I supplicate you. While entering the mandala of the gathered intentions, by the blessings of Soto and Yeshe Wangchuk, you purified the impure aggregates and dhatus, transforming them into the 3 secrets of Vajrasattva. Supreme, all-pervading Lord of the families, I supplicate you. Cared for by the Vajra Queen, the mother of the victorious ones, the phenomenal world arose for you as infinite pure mandalas, and you clearly beheld the mandala of the Vajra body, one who is supreme among siddhas, I supplicate you. Attaining the gathering of the dakinis in the outer and inner 3 abodes, you increased the wisdom of the 3 blazes and perfected the auspicious coincidence of the 3 conducts. Great sovereign of yogis, I supplicate you. Through the awakening of the karmic imprints of your numerous succession of lives, countless rivers of the scriptures of Sutra and Tantra, whose transmissions were rare, supreme representations and sacred substances gathered in the ocean of your life story, I supplicate you. You obtained the 6 transmission lineages, the earth and mind treasures, pure visions, the oral lineages, the recollected teachings and the rediscovered treasures, the royal seat of the precious 7 authorizations, universal king of Dharma, I supplicate you. Mastering your own perceptions and subjugating the power of others, you accomplish the 4 kinds of activity even without exertion. One whose commands are fulfilled as entrusted by dakinis and Dharma protectors and powerful haughty ones, I supplicate you. Through countless turnings of the wheel of the profound and vast Dharma, you ripened and liberated millions of fortunate beings, embodiment of compassion, possessing inconceivable sublime qualities, I supplicate you. When you manifested the completion of the perceptions of this world, you became one with the spacious mind of Vimalamitra, the crown ornament of the 500 Panditas, the basis of emanation at the pure and cool 5 peaks, I supplicate you. Again, according to the perceptions of beings to be tamed through numerous emanations of body, speech, mind, quality and activity, you fulfilled the wishes of the teachings and beings. One whose benefit to beings is limitless, I supplicate you. When you, the protector, attain Buddhahood as the all-seeing guide, may I be endowed with the fortune of supreme enlightenment as your first disciple and serve you as that victorious one. By the power of supplicating one pointedly with unwavering devotion, from this life until enlightenment is attained, not separating from the glorious sublime Guru, may I be cared for and actualize the qualities in manifest form. Serving accordingly through the means of pleasing, receiving the essence of the mind and perfecting practices, through thoroughly accomplishing the qualities of the stages and paths, may I attain the state of Vajradhara, not meeting with obstacles, and in practicing in accordance with the Dharma, through having gained mastery over scriptures and realization, spreading the teaching of the Buddha throughout the world, may I be equal to you, the King of Dharma. Emanation of Vimalamitra, blessed by Manjushri, 13th incarnation of Lhaje the Prince, Pema Dongak Lingpa, who holds the 7 transmissions, Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, I supplicate you. Holder of the oral and treasure lineages, emanation of Vairocana, master of the tradition of the chariots of the 5 treasuries, holder of the non-sectarian Rimé tradition, treasury of ocean qualities, noble Lodrotaya, I supplicate you. Heart son of the Udayana Guru, the 2nd Buddha, sovereign of myriad treasure revealers and accomplished yogis, you of inconceivable life, protector of the doctrine and all beings in this degenerate age, noble Chögyal Lingpa, I supplicate you. Outwardly Lord Bodhisattva Chögyalodra, inwardly Manjushri Vimalamitra, secretly Sri Heruka, endowed with all the marks, I supplicate you, bless my being. Wisdom embodiment of the 2 knowledges of all the Buddhas, you are Manjushri, the play of wisdom and great love. Lord of learned and accomplished masters, chariot of the Buddha's teachings, Pema Dongak Lingpa, I supplicate you. In the pure land of Akanishta, within the palace of the absolute expanse, true essence of the Buddhas of the 3 times, you show me that my own mind is indeed Dharmakaya, sublime root Guru, I supplicate you. Through all my births, may I not be separated from the perfect Guru, and so enjoy the splendor of Dharma. Perfecting the virtues of the paths and bhumis, may I speedily attain the state of the glorious Guru. So then we practice the actual Guru Yoga. So first, the preliminaries, refuge in bodhicitta. To liberate myself and others, all beings throughout space, without exception, from the suffering of the ocean of samsara, I take refuge in the Guru and the 3 jewels, and generate the mind of enlightenment to cultivate this profound yoga. To liberate myself and others, all beings, throughout space without exception, from the suffering of the ocean of samsara, I take refuge in the Guru and the 3 jewels, and generate the mind of enlightenment to cultivate this profound yoga. To liberate myself and others, and all beings throughout space without exception, from the suffering of the ocean of samsara, I take refuge in the Guru and the 3 jewels, and generate the mind of enlightenment to cultivate this profound yoga. Om Shunyata Dhyana Bhadra Sobhava Atma Konham. Within the state of emptiness, there is no world or beings, nor subject or object to be perceived. There is only the display of wisdom, profound, luminous, and non-dual. From the arising of the various experiences of samsara and nirvana, whatever places appear are infinite pure realms. At the center of the great secret Vajra palace of Akanishta, in the sky before me amidst clouds of enchanting offerings, is a jewel lion throne. On a saffron-colored mat atop a pile of silken cushions is the Vajradhara who upholds the 3 vows, the universal sovereign of the enlightened families, Guru Manjushri Khyentse Wangpo. He has a rosy white complexion, radiating splendor. His face is replete with beautifully rounded eyes. In the mudra of supreme generosity, his right hand bears a Vajra and a longevity vase that grants supreme siddhis to the fortunate ones. His left hand, in the gesture of meditative equipoise, bears the bell of wisdom and a volume of scripture that teaches the infinite modes of Dharma. His body is elegantly clothed in the 3 Dharma robes, and he wears the hat of a Pandita who has mastered countless scriptures. He sits straight with his 2 legs in the Vajra posture. He is the essence of the 3 jewels and Lord of the ocean of the 3 roots. He is inseparable from the 3 kayas and turns the wheel of the 100 families. Just the thought of him dispels all fears of samsara and nirvana, and he vividly appears as the embodiment of all refuges. To the glorious Guru, who embodies all sources of refuge, I and all beings, without exception, throughout space, with great respect, offer prostration with our three doors. We present our body, wealth, in cloud banks of Samantabhadra offerings. We wholeheartedly confess our faults and transgressions accumulated over lifetimes. We rejoice in ocean-like supreme bodhisattva conduct. We supplicate you to always remain turning the wheel of Dharma, and we dedicate the accumulated merit so that all beings attain omniscience. To the glorious Lama, Lord of scholars and siddhas, the sole embodiment of the wisdom of knowledge, love and power, of all the victors along with their heirs, Manjughosha and others, from the depth of my heart I pray, grant your blessings. To the glorious Lama, Lord of scholars and siddhas, the sole embodiment of the wisdom of knowledge, love and power, of all the victors along with their heirs, Manjughosha and others, from the depth of my heart, I pray, grant your blessings. To the glorious Lama, Lord of scholars and siddhas, the sole embodiment of the wisdom of knowledge, love and power, of all the victors along with their heirs, Manjughosha and others, from the depth of my heart, I pray, grant your blessings. And then also we have another prayer to Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, also translated by the Khyentse Vision Project. Single embodiment of the wisdom, power, love, and spiritual power of all the victorious ones and their heirs, Manjughosha and the rest. Glorious Guru, Lord among learned and accomplished masters, to you I pray, look upon me with eyes of compassion. Pacify the sufferings of this life, the next, and the Bardo states. Increase longevity, prosperity, favorable circumstances, and everything positive. And may all beings connected with you, through your blessings, attain the level of enlightenment in the pure land of Sukhavati. And then, while recollecting Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, visualizing him in front of us, then we'll chant the name mantra for a little while. Om Ahum Manjughosha Sarva Siddhihom Om Ahum Om Ahum Guru Manjughosha Sarva Siddhihom Om Ahum Manjughosha Sarva Siddhihom Om Ahum Guru Manjughosha Sarva Siddhihom Om Ahum Guru Manjughosha Sarva Siddhihom. Om Guru Manjung Gosha Sarva Siddhi Om. From the three syllables at the three places of the Guru, rays of light and nectar issue forth, first separately and then simultaneously, entering and dissolving into my three places. Thus the empowerments are bestowed, obscurations are purified, and the accomplishments of maturation and liberation are attained. Finally, the Guru melts into light and dissolves into me. The Guru's mind and my own mind merge as one, and the creative power of realization is perfected. Unstained by the thoughts of the three times, in the state of the innate nature, I behold the true face of the luminous Dharmakaya beyond conception. Through this virtue, may all sentient beings, myself and others, never be separated from the Lord of the Mandala and always be under his care. And by having pure faith, devotion and samaya, may we quickly attain the state of the noble Guru. And so we'll conclude the practice with some prayers, particularly for the long life of some of the manifestations of Khyentse Wangpo that we have in this day and age, particularly Tsongsa Khyentse Rinpoche and Jigme Khyentse Rinpoche, but of course also including all other masters who are upholding not just the lineage of Khyentse Wangpo, but are upholding the teachings of the Buddha. Om Swasti, Skullgarland Lotus Heruka, conqueror of Maras, whose deathless natural wisdom mind has transformed the root of existence into great Vajra bliss. Subjugator of apparent phenomena, please shower the blessings of immortality. Fearless Lord of speech, you are the Vajra holder of the profound secret treasures of wisdom and compassion. Victorious one of all-pervading activity, may your three secrets remain indestructible and everlasting. As vowed by Vimlamitra and King Trisong Detsen to constantly manifest out of compassion, you came as a warrior to protect the doctrine and all beings in this dark age. May you remain forever as the unchanging Vajra essence. May the virtuous seed of this supplication, warmed and moistened by the undeceiving two truths, ripen into a splendid fruit that beautifies the three worlds with utmost auspiciousness. Through the blessings of the fearless, infinite, radiant, long-life deities, may the prophesied display of Khyentse, the supreme, powerful one, be firm in health and life, like the indestructible Vajra, and may his beneficial activity for the teaching and beings reach its ultimate extent. We pray for the good health of the Lama. We pray for his precious lives to be long. We pray for his activities to spread and increase. May we be blessed never to part from him. May the teaching, the soul's source of benefit and happiness, prevail for a long time. May the victory banner of the lives of the doctrine holders be firmly established. Master of the ocean of the non-sectarian teachings of the land of snows, sovereign by way of the wondrous seven transmissions, very embodiment of Manjushri, Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, may all be auspicious for the tradition of your teachings to spread and flourish. So, at this point then we've completed what we, I think, intended to do in terms of going over Khyentse Wangpo's life and also practicing together. And I don't know if there's any. Actually, it would be so wonderful, Dolma, if you would just you could say, conclude with a few words of about the Khyentse Vision Project.
Sure, thank you so much. That was really wonderful. And really, it's since we translated that particular sadhana, it's become the favorite sadhana of many people. There's something very pithy and short and sweet and incredibly powerful about it and beautiful. Kind of taps into really the heart and mind of Khyentse Wangpo in such a precise, swift, simple way. And so I really recommend anyone who feels a connection to it to keep practicing it. And there's this beautiful teaching by Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo which explains the practice a little bit. So please have a look at that. Thanks so much, Jakob, for inspiring us with stories about Khyentse Wangpo's life. There's so much to be said about him. I know that different traditions all think of Khyentse Wangpo in different ways. You know, for the Nyingmapas, he's such an extraordinary tet, and for the Sakyapas, he's a real Sakya master. For everybody, he's something, and he played such an incredible role in helping to preserve and maintain the Buddha Dharma. We all owe him such a great debt of gratitude. If anyone would like to explore the range of his writings, his writings include, of course, sadhanas like that beautiful sadhana we just did, but there's also guidebooks, there's history, there's philosophy, there's pith instructions, there are Vajra songs. Khyentse Wangpo was a great poet and he studied Sanskrit poetry, and a lot of his songs are the really sophisticated, amazing Tibetan poems. And the reading room is full of his treasures. So we're only just getting started, but please keep coming back. Please stay in touch with us in our social media and newsletter so that you can know about new publications. But I also wanted to make special mention of Siddhartha's intent. A lot of what inspires Khyentse Vision Project is producing practice material for the Sangha to practice. And I want to thank Jeannie, especially, who's here from Siddhartha's Intent Australia, who constantly helps the collaboration of the two projects and helps us practice together. And more, we want to be able to produce and support practice material for the Sangha to practice. So thanks so much, Jeannie, for making this session available as well. Thanks, Siddhartha's Intent. So please keep in touch, everybody, and may the vision and activities of all of the Khyentses remain firm in this world. May they shine like the sun, and may we all forever be connected to the wondrous Khyentse Mandala. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you again, Jakob. See you all again soon.
Thank you, Dolma. Thank you so much.
And if I may add a special thank you to our interpreter, Stephanie Lee, who was doing a really great job today, trying to keep up with the pace of historical accounts and other beautiful remarks that Jakob's done. And there were a lot of questions about the translation of the sadhana. So please keep up with our project and you'll see. And please join us for our next Text of the Month event with Dotul Kurmche on March 15. We're also going to be talking about Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo life and different events and different chapters of his life. It's going to be a lot of fun. Please join us and thank you again.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much, Ina. Thanks so much for all of your support in helping these events happen too. Thanks, Jakob.
I will ask everyone to unmute to say
thank
bye.
You.
And
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. 谢谢翻译。谢谢翻译。Thank you very much.